right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2016 Forest City Comicon. I'm Screen Sheen from CGBK, Movie Monday, and it's on every Monday at 1:40. We're here today, something really cool. We got an awesome guest, Reuben Langdon, who was not only involved with the Japanese version of Tokusatsu Sentai, but also the North American version of Power Rangers as well. And so which is rare because usually there wasn't too much crossover. So it's really cool. He's here to talk about that. So if you have any questions after his presentation, absolutely ask them. And we don't have any wireless mics on, so maybe we'll figure something out. People come up here and ask a question, or it's a small enough room where you can probably just yell it. All right, so here's Reuben Langdon, and put your hands together. This is going to be pretty cool.
So I don't have like a proper presentation, and just have some videos I can show you guys, and we can have a little conversation about my life in this world. I started off my career in Japan. I moved there when I was 19, and I got I auditioned for the role of Mac Windy in V-Fighter Kabuto, which is it came out in the States later as Beetleborgs. Okay.
I remember
which
those.
I've never seen.
Terrible.
I've heard not so good things about
Wasn't
it.
around long.
Compared to the show I was in, anyways. They heavily edited it. Just like the Power Rangers, Saban took out all of the actors, and then just used after the transformation stuff. And since I was an actor on the show in Japan, I got edited out of Beetleborgs. So, in Japan, after the show, I ran for about a year, and I was sort of off and on. I was an irregular helper. I was the high school exchange student from New York, coming to help. Oh, what's going on? Oh, right. Not my computer, so.
Just click the X.
X, right here, right?
Yeah.
No thanks. Get out of here.
Damn ads.
So I worked on the show for on and off for a year, and it was very challenging for me because at the time I didn't speak Japanese fluently. I spoke it kind of, sort of. By the time the show was done, I spoke it fluently. I had to learn all my lines in Japanese and read the script in Japanese and understand, the story, understand what all the other actors were saying, so I could act, so I could at least give some sort of an accurate performance for the audience. So it was really challenging because I was all self-taught. I didn't go to school to learn Japanese. I just got these scripts and went to my agency and the modeling agency I was with at the time, and they helped me sort of translate this script for everything was in kanji. So I had, at the time, now we can sort of take pictures of things and it's automatic, and just studying Japanese is way easier now than it used to be. But for a lot of the more difficult kanji, which they're talking about, other dimensions, and the bad guys were coming from other worlds in the darkness, and then they would come in and beat up the good guys, and there was all these weird names for these for the different creatures and all this stuff. So it was really hard to understand at some points, but going through that and sort of having that experience, talk about getting your feet wet or jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. That was one way, and I certainly learned Japanese very quickly from doing that. In the show, let me show you just a quick little sort of montage of highlights from the show. The lights. All right, we'll get the lights back up. So yeah, that was a long time ago.
Nice.
So that started my career in everything I'm doing now. So if it wasn't for this show, I wouldn't be up here talking to you guys and doing this convention, because I probably, well, anyways, who knows what I would have done. But it was on my 21st birthday, was the first day of filming, and I got to, transform and fly through the air and beat up the bad guys, and I was like, yes, this is what I'm doing the rest of my life. In some form or fashion, I sort of transitioned into motion capture, which I'm wearing spandex and beating up bad guys, just doing it in a different form, but essentially doing the same thing I've done for the past 20 years. And just some trivia about the show. So when the first bulk of episodes, I guess 3 or 4 episodes that came out that I did, it wasn't my voice. Even though I spoke Japanese, they told me that, I guess they were worried that the Japanese people couldn't understand me 100% and my pronunciation, even though I thought it was good. Everybody else said it was really good. They were just in case they got somebody to dub my voiceover. And they sort of told me this when we were shooting, and then it crushed me. I was like, no, come on, you can't be serious. They're like, no, because they didn't shoot sync sound then. Now they mostly do, but back then, all the shows were dubbed afterwards. They didn't have a sound crew. It was just cheaper to go in for an ADR day at the end of the episodes, or at the one after they would shoot one episode. So I went ahead and I booked another job on the ADR day. And the day before that ADR day, they said, oh, you know what, we've looked at things and we've heard your voice and we're gonna let you do your voice. And I was like, no, I already booked it. I've had another commercial booking. So I ended up not doing my voice for that first cluster of episodes. And I was crushed, and I was on this other job just trying to figure out a way to get out of it, and I couldn't. And unfortunately, because I'd already gone to the audition and booked that job, and sort of regretted that dearly, but I didn't know. I didn't know that they were going to let me do my voice at the last minute. They didn't even hint. They sort of told me before, like, no, we're going to have somebody else do your voice. But luckily later, and if you see later episodes, they actually brought me in and I got to do my voice before I transformed. Once I transformed, it was the other guy's voice, which was still, to me, a little silly, but I still got to do at least my face, my voice, that I remember seeing the first few episodes on TV, and it was like a major facepalm. And then for several years I trained with the Japan Action Club, or Japan, it's now known as Japan Action Enterprise, the stunt guys that do all the stunts for that. And they invited me in and let me train, and I really sort of focused on the stunt aspects, the action aspects. I wanted to be like Jackie Chan, and I remember at the time I got interviewed by a lot of Japanese newspapers because I was the first white guy to transform in a hero series, in a Sentai or Tokusatsu. You guys know the difference between Tokusatsu and Sentai? Some of you?
Yes.
So Tokusatsu is, there's sort of, for many, many years, there's been two shows that have sort of, that Toei's been producing that have gone parallel with each other over the years. And the base of them, one was the Kamen Rider, and the other one was the Ranger series. You know, and every year in Japan, unlike in America, well now they do this in America, but in Japan every year they switch up the cast and they switch up the theme, and it's a new cast, a new theme. And the original Power Rangers, as you know, went several seasons before they switched the cast and switched the theme, and then they took over and sort of modeled it after the Japanese style of doing things, and that's what they've been doing to this day. So the Tokusatsu is more of this Kamen Rider. It translates as like a special effects show, but more the Kamen Rider lineage. And B-Fighter sort of fell into that sort of metal bugs lineage. Kamen Rider, if you pay attention to that and all the different versions they have of that. You guys know Kamen Rider?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So we have in the States we had Kamen Rider Dark Knight, which was what was that from Ryuki, right? Kamen Rider Ryuki. Which I also worked on that show as well. We'll get into that. I've worked on pretty much all the superhero shows. Where was I? We're still in Japan. Let's go back to Japan. So I worked on this Tokusatsu series, B-Fighter, and went and trained with the guys. And at the same time, they were shooting Car Ranger, which I think came out here as Turbo. Yeah. That was the same season. I remember going and hanging out with those guys at the movie studios out there in Japan, and training with the Japan action team and other action teams as well. And after B-Fighter, I found that's what I really love to do. So I just kept training with the action teams for 4 years while I was living in Japan until finally I moved back to the States. I actually went to Hong Kong for a year. And got to work with Jackie Chan and meet all the Hong Kong actors out there. But while I was in Japan, I sort of after B-Fighter, I was looking for the next gig, and there was not really a whole lot for a white guy to do there, other than do sort of like modeling and things. So I paid the bills doing modeling and commercials. I sort of did a lot of commercials. Let me see. And I'll show you my commercial reel. This is just some of the commercials I did while I was in Japan. They don't pay as well as they do in the States. You don't get residuals, but they do pay decent, and there's a lot less competition there. So like if I were to go to an audition in the States, I'd probably have like 200 people, 300 people that I'd be going up against, where in Japan it was between like me and 30 people. So my odds were better. And I sort of, after having the B-Fighter experience and being immersed in Japanese culture, I sort of understood what the Japanese were looking for in a white guy personality on TV. So I knew how to sort of overact and overdo it, which became a hindrance when I came back to the States, because I was like overdoing everything. But it was good because it paid the bills, and it was a lot of fun. So take a look at this. We'll get the lights. And I'll explain this after.
Yeah! Dante!
You guys know Little Big Red?
Devil May Cry 3. カプコン。
Should throw balls back in.
まさくん、大ちゃん、気をつけ。
ジュンジュン。
やっそ、あつやん。ジャッキー。もちろん。私は私。サンキュー、レッドス。
ナイスメントフルーツミックス新発売。
I love Japan.
閉めろと安心。その時開けて閉めろと安心。それでは皆さんご一緒に。その時開けて。念の玉付き。その時開けて閉めると安心。やってみろ。はいパパ。取る時開けて閉めると安心。まだまだだな。念の玉付き。君それ i モード？
そう、E メール送ってるの。携帯の番号がそのままアドレスなの。どこかの i モードなら E メールだってお得です。
i モードです。
あやつながる。できる、楽しい、どこまで i モード。
日本の英語は難しすぎるぞ。日本の英語は難しすぎるぞ。なんだ難しいね。
だからチャート式なんだよね。数学から英語まで数件出版のチャート式。
Just looking for Sleeping Beauty。我係學生，佢係何太。
順手嗰個鬼妹仔搬咗咯喎。
有咁多好樓盤，邊個都可以揾到更好地方搬，全盤在握，星島地產專輯。
We're finding real estate.
光線量がぎゅっと詰まって小型軽量。小さな光線とビルの浸透力。ソニーインフォバー。
ジャメロクワイハット当たるよ。ソニーの MD で。雪のジャケット当たるよ。MD オーディオビデオカセットで。MD レックも当たる。ソニーレックで音楽グッズプレゼント。It's Sony。
Yeah, we're learning Japanese. Alright, see it. I'll get the lights.
Crazy over here.
Oh yeah, good times. So I had, and there's many more that I just would show up on the side that was Japanese person and whatever. But so that's how I paid the bills. I just kept training with the action teams, really trying to get my physical skills up so I could, beat Jackie Chan. And that was my goal. And then I went to Hong Kong and actually got to meet Jackie Chan and eventually got to work with him, which was super cool. But I guess before working with Jackie, I had a little brief sort of background work on Jackie Chan, my stunts, if you guys ever heard of that. It's like a video he did where he sort of showed how he did the stunts. And I was invited to go out and I had some friends on the production that said, yeah, come out and work in the background, sort of like help set up some of the stunts and be one of Jackie's stunt assistants. So that was fun. So I got to meet him, but I didn't really get to physically work with him until a little bit later. Okay, this is not my computer. So I moved to the States eventually, after being in Hong Kong for a bit and realizing, kind of coming to the same conclusion that I came to in Japan, that the only work for someone out in Hong Kong is if you're really mean looking and you're a bad guy. Because just like how we cast Asians here in North America as all the bad guys, then that's how they cast white people out in Asia. So if you don't look menacing enough, you're not going to get a part. And at the time, as you can see from, maybe now I could look a little mean, but at the time, I still had this baby face, so I couldn't look menacing enough. So my roles were limited. And so I came back to the States, and I started, actually the day right from the airport, I went straight to the set of Power Rangers. I had some friends that were, co-workers of friends that I was training with. I hadn't met any of them, but the guys I would train with in Japan, they said, yeah, if you're going to go to the States, you should look up, Koichi and the Alpha Stunt Team. They're doing some really amazing stuff on Power Rangers. And by that time, I'd already seen the movie Drive. If you guys have heard of that. It's directed by Steve Wang, who was the director of the Kamen Rider Dragon Knight? No.
Dragon Knight.
Dragon Knight, yes. So he directed that series. He produced and directed that series. And he also was the creator of the Predator suit, the designer. So he's more of a sculptor and sort of special effects makeup guy turned director. And he directed Drive, he directed the Guyver movie. Have you ever heard of
Guyver!
Yeah, Mark Hamill.
The second one, the Guyver 2.
Guyver 2, Dark Hero.
Dark Hero, that is what's, so that was the first collaboration between Koichi and Steve, and then they did Drive, and I was a huge fan, and when the Japanese guys that I trained with said, yeah, go hook up with Koichi and the guys that are doing Power Rangers, I knew who they were, I knew they had done Guyver and Drive, and I was a huge fan of that stuff, so I went straight from the airport to the set, and they were like, oh, you're Mac Windy, you're the Beat Fighter guy, and I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, do you want to come and train with us tonight? And I'm jet lagged, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So that night I was training with Chris and Patricia from In Space. They were shooting the last episode of In Space. And they hadn't told the actors that they were going to change them out. By this time, they had sort of kept with the same actors over the different seasons, and they didn't tell them, and they didn't know. And I found out that day that they were going to change them out, and I guess they had told them. So they came to training. I guess a couple of days later, all this was sort of unfolding when I was there. So they decided they were going to sort of emulate the Japanese style of switching every year, switch out the actors. Because I think the In Space actors, how long did that go for?
In Space was 1 year.
1 year. But the actors...
They were the last ones to be the continuous seasons, then they flipped it for Lost Galaxy.
Exactly, yes. And that's right, literally that day when they made that decision is when I showed up at the studio and was like, hi guys, I'm the Beat Fighter dude. And it was great because, well, no, that wasn't great, but so I started training, they went into hiatus, they were sort of preparing for the new, for Lost Galaxy, and Koichi got me to audition for Red Ranger for Lost Galaxy, and Saban really liked me, and they actually, before they even cast any of the other cast, they said, you're gonna be the next Red Ranger, and I was like, whoa, are you serious? And they said, but you have the performance, you can do the physical stuff, but your acting, it's a little big. So they actually hired an acting coach, and for the summer I was working with an acting coach, thinking that I'm going to be the next Red Ranger. Saban's hired an acting coach. I'm here. I'm going to be doing this. But after a month, 2 months of being in the States, I was like, well, I have my life back in Japan. I had been living there for 5 years. I had all my stuff, and I said, look, Koichi, I need to go back to Japan and pack so I can to be here to commit to the series. And he goes, yeah, go back. we'll talk to you soon. The day I got back to Japan, I was so excited, riding my motorcycle. I had a motorcycle in Japan. And I just wasn't paying attention, and I turned a corner, and there was a girl on a motorcycle, or on a bicycle, and it's at night, and when the roads are super narrow in Japan, you can't really see around, so they have these little mirrors in every intersection that you can kind of see around. So she didn't have a light on her bike, so I swung around the corner really quick, and then I saw her, and I was so surprised and caught off guard. I slammed on my brakes, and I dropped the bike on my leg, and I broke my foot. I didn't know my foot was broken. It hurt really bad. Tried to go to sleep that night, and the next morning I went to the doctor, and they took x-rays, and like, yeah, your foot's broken. You broke my tibia or whatever. So I was sort of like, oh no, now what does this mean for Red Ranger? What's going on? This is like the worst timing this could possibly happen. I called Koichi, and he was like, yeah, that's not good. They're gonna definitely recast you. So he said, just don't tell anybody, and keep it a secret, because it's still it was 3 weeks away from the actual start date. And he said, and we'll, just hang out in Japan, because if you come back now and they see you, they're definitely going to recast you. And I said, okay, I'll take your advice, yeah. I sort of threw in the towel at that time, but he said, yeah, there might still be a chance. So I just sort of waited it out, was limping around. I don't think I needed full-on crutches. I think it was a crack, and I sort of had it wrapped in a cast. A makeshift cast. It wasn't, it's like a boot, one of those boot things that you could walk around in. But I couldn't run. And then some more time went by, and then it came about a week before the due date, and Coach was like, so, can you still come? And I'm like, absolutely, yeah, I've got my ticket ready. Let's just tell me when. And he goes, okay, well, we're seeing some other people, so just be on standby, and I might need you to come out at the last minute. I'm like, yeah, no, that's fine. I got my ticket. It's all set. And he said, but don't come yet, because again, we gotta wait till the last minute. Then he called me back, and he said, okay, we're seeing a couple guys tomorrow. I'll let you know how it goes. And then he calls me back the next day, and he said, all right, so one of the guys we're definitely not going to pick. So it's just one guy left. We're going to see him tomorrow, and I'll give you a call can you get on the plane tomorrow, like tomorrow night? And I'm like, yes, I'll be on the plane. And then he called me back and he said, we're going to go with the other guy. And I was like, ah! So I was this close to being Red Ranger for Lost Galaxy. But then he sort of gave me the pep talk, and he said, well, look, you got the physical skills. We really could use you on the stunt team. So you always have a home, and which really made me feel like awesome. Like I was like, okay. And then I sort of knew at that time it was time to transition out of Japan, and that was sort of the catalyst to get me back to the States. So I waited some time. Actually got into another bike accident that was really major. It was a compound fracture, so my bone was exposed, my ankle, a few months later. And that actually kept me in Japan for another year, because I had to go through 2 surgeries. During the summer, I ended up working, I still had bolts in my foot. I told Koichi the whole story, and he said, well, and I came back to the States for the summer between surgeries, and Koichi got me on the stunt team for the last episode of Lost Galaxy, which was very painful because I had bolts in my foot. I still had to be battling, so I was a battling. The battlings, you guys? So I was a battling in the last episode, fighting some of the bad guys. But came back to Japan, got the bolts out, did all that, and then eventually made it back to the States just in time for Time Force. And Koichi was like, okay, come on in, we're going to get you part of the stunt team. And actually, it was just before Time Force. I got back, I think I did, on light speed, I was doubling the main actor, what's his name? Sean? I don't know, I think it's Sean. I feel like it's Sean. For light speed, and then Time Force kicked in, and then I was on the show like full time. So I was kind of a helper because I came in halfway through the season on Lightspeed, and I was just helping out. And then for Time Force, I signed up for the whole season. So I was in every episode of Time Force. Yeah. And so I have some videos of some cameos. So every day, a typical day in the life of a stunt guy on Power Rangers is you don't know what you're doing. You show up in the trailers, and they have a costume there, and they have sides, and every day is a different role, a different bad guy, unless you're like one of the main Japanese, all the main Rangers, main colors, red, blue, green, yellow, they were all Japanese guys. Yes, pink was a Japanese guy. Yellow was a Japanese guy. I'm sorry if I crushed your childhood memories. So was a guy in spandex. Yeah, I'm sorry. Luckily, I never was pink or yellow. I was too tall. But so those guys were sort of set. They were always, the Koshige. We call him Koshige because he had hair on his back. That's what Koshige means. It's back hair. He was always pink. Koshige, the hairy back guy he was the Pink Ranger always. So like he was pink. And Matsuda-san, he was always red, and so those guys. But for the other stunt guys on the team, sometimes I was a blue, because somebody else, they had to do something else or whatever, and I was Blue Ranger. I remember on Lightspeed I was Titanium Ranger sometimes in the suit. So I did some of that stuff. Some of the stunts for the physical stunts before he transformed, but I was also in the suit after he transformed. Time Force is just every day was a different day, different characters, and then I have a new wardrobe in my trailer every morning, and they're like, okay, you're gonna be doing this today, and here's your sides, and learn your lines, because you're gonna do this. So here's just some cameos from my time on Time Force.
Hey guys, look. Water.
Ladies and gentlemen, over on your left-hand side, we have what is known in the biz as the craft service table. This is where all the stars come and get their snacks between takes. Take your pictures, everyone. Take your pictures.
Guys, follow me. Hi, guys. I just saw Frankie Chang shooting movie right down that alley.
Down that way, over there.
Right down
Ladies
there.
and gentlemen, did you hear that? Frankie Chang, the world famous action star company, was down there. Let's go.
Right down there, guys. Try. Stop!
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
Time Force. This is an emergency. We need to commandeer your vehicle.
Get lost.
Wait. Ken, you have to be polite. Lucas, you drive.
Sorry. We'll send you a new one.